Wagwan sports fans, welcome back to another very special episode. I am your host with the most, Joe Mar, and this is the Sir That Sports TV, the place you guys come to get the best, most interesting, and everything sports topics, discussions, debates, and post game analysis on the internet. And yes, people, as I said in the introduction, post game analysis. This is another post game analysis of one of today's, I think, four fixtures, of Issa Manning Cup round of 16, match day number 3. Today was almost akin to a Super Sunday type environment. I guess you can call it a Super Friday, where all the teams in two of the competing groups played at the same time. There is a lot at stake in all the fixtures today, and these are that sports TV. We were blessed and privileged enough to be at two of those games, and Rush would have done the coverage for the Mona versus St. George's game, which was a very big fixture. So if you haven't seen the analysis for that game and the interviews, go and watch them. Spoke to some important people. I'm sure Rush did a comprehensive analysis of that game. So people jump over there and go watch that if you haven't yet. But I, on the other hand, was at another very crucial game. And it was St. Andrew Technical High School versus Kingston College High School. And it was a big one. And I was so happy that I got to see it. And this is the analysis for that game, which had some great implications and unfortunately some ramifications. But we'll get more into that. But before we do, like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and share the video to at least 10 people, but ensure to get us 6 subscribers, because if each and every one of you guys can manage to do that, you know how many subscribers that get. Okay, every talk. From the top people. I'm just so excited schoolboy football is back. I can't even put words together. Anyways, if each and every one of you guys can manage to do that, do you know how many subscribers that get us by the end of the day, people? With that being said, let's get right into the analysis. All right, so wait first. If Rush was here, Rush should have say, "Yo, turn on the music." So I got turn it on there real quick. You know them with it? Yeah. All right. So we can just go and listen to the nice beat and bouncing in the background while me analyze this game real quick, isn't it? All right, people. So as I said in the introduction, Staths versus KC, a big fixture. Staths coming into this game somewhat behind the 8 ball. One would say with their backs against the wall. Because of less than desirable performances in the two fixtures leading up to this game. So Staths had a lot to play for, and they also had to hope for results elsewhere. Which, spoiler alert, they didn't get the results that they wanted because Hydel handled business in the other game that was played at 3 p.m. today versus Wilmers High School, and Hydel ended on 6 points, coming second in the zone to Kingston College on goal difference. But Stats came out into this game, needing a win by a fair share of goals and also needing Hydel to lose their match. Stats did get the win, and they did play well, but it just wasn't enough for them to qualify for the quarterfinals of the Manning Cup. However, we're not here to analyze the whole competition. We're here to analyze today's game. And considering that Stats won the game, I think it's only fair that we start out with their performance. But before we analyze the individual performance, let me just do a quick run through and recap of the match. So the match started, it kicked off 3 p.m. on time. Stadium is looking nice, decent atmosphere. Though it was a Kingston College home game, that seemed to have had the greater crowd support, which I found surprising. But at the same time, Stats is always known for how well they travel, so it's not that surprising. And the game kind of started, slow tempo. Both teams were, I guess, feeling each other out. Both teams were looking as you say, slight on the football, not necessarily holding on to it, not necessarily making anything happen. So the ball was just being turned over in the center third of the football field. And anytime KC would have pushed a bit, Stats would have dealt with it easily. Stats weren't really putting themselves in good position to make good on their talent in the first half of the game, or at least in the first quarter of the game. Let's say. So it seemed as though KC were all over the Stats team, but KC still looked very toothless in the beginning of the game. No team seemed likely to score. It was just a game of KC making, trying to make over top passes, KC trying to push it through, Stats dealing with it easily, and Stats not really connecting or making anything of their chances early in the game. However, as the first half progressed, especially after the first water break, Stats came back out and they kind of got more into the game. However, before Stats really got a stronghold on the football game, KC missed a glorious opportunity. I'd like to say in probably minute 25, where it was fumbled by Jaheim Williams, and KC had a few bites at the proverbial cherry, as they'd say, and it was as a result of two great clearances for the eventual man of the match, J. Lloyd Smith, that kept it level. And from that point on, Stats kind of went on the ascension. They started to put plays together. Their captain, Kalanji, in the midfield. Let me pull up the team sheets, because one thing about this St. Andrew technical team, and it's not unique to this season. They have some colorful names, but as I said, the number seven, Kalanja Watson, in the middle of the park, towards the end of the first half, he started to take it up. He started to hold on to the ball more. He started to show some class, making some passes out wide. Kevin Hall was really a menace to Kimali Reese, that's Kingston College's wing back. They kept pushing, they kept knocking at the door. Another person, Ajatai, I think his name, Marshall, in the middle of the park, him and Kalanji were linking up well, and they really started to hold on to the football game. They really started to hold on to the football more. They really started to create more chances, and now they started to push Kingston College back further and further and further, taking shot after shot. Stats were now the controllers of the game. We saw from time to time KC would probably get forward on the counter, but it would be dealt with easier by Alex Xavier Gooden or Jalen or J. Lloyd Smith, or the other central defender, Kevin Clark, because Stats were playing somewhat of a hybrid three at the back type situation. Um, I identified three centre backs, but I only could have identified one wing back based on how I was watching the game, and that wing back was Keena Levy. He was an outstanding player too, coming back and getting forward, but I couldn't really identify a left-sided wing back, and I'm wondering if it was because for most of the game, Alex Xavier Gooden was playing like a left centre back role. So because of his competence, he was able to cover left back and left centre back type role. But we were playing with three central defenders, and I assume two wing backs, but there's only one noticeable wing back. Anyways, to the games, as I said, every time KC would manage to break forward or go on a counter attack, the back three of St. Andrew Technical would deal with it relatively easy. Stats also got, a chance where they should have made better on, when a square came in, and the Kingston College goalkeeper Malik Williams, had a, I don't know what you'd call it, a howler. The ball went right through his hands in a square, and it fell on. I'm going to try to remember. Yeah, it fell on Dwayne Atkinson's foot, right at about 3 yards from net, and he was not able to convert. Forcing a block from the Kingston College defender and then a save from Malik Williams. So the game continued like that essentially until about the 45th minute, where Stats, as I said, kept applying the pressure, and were brought down at about 35 to 40 yards out, towards the left touch line. And J. Lloyd Smith, the man of the match, stepped up to take the free kick. And he put in a picture perfect square that found the head perfectly of Alex Xavier Gooden, who nodded it home, just a nice little glancing header to the far side of Malik Williams in the KC net, and that would be the deciding goal in the game. It ended 1-0. They came out in the second half, and Stats maintained position. They went forward a bit more, but there wasn't really any goal threat from either side. After that point, it was more Stats just controlling the game, controlling position, making plays, but not being too aggressive so as to hold on to the 1-0 lead. And Kingston College, for the most part today, I'm not sure if it was because they knew that they had already secured qualification to the next round, but they seemed toothless in a sense. And we spoke to Vassar Reynolds after the game, and he concurred with that statement by saying that young as these boys are, sometimes it's hard to get into their psyche to get them up for a game to them, which would have been of academic interest. And according to him, it was demonstrated on the field today. So, KSU, they were relatively toothless. In the last quarter of the game, I'd say they brought on the Mara Daly, their talisman. He came on and he, as he does, got a great look at goal, but Jaheim Williams pulled out a great save. And ultimately, Stats dominated the game, and Stats got the well deserved 1-0 result, but it wasn't enough for them to qualify for the second round. As I said earlier in the introduction, Stats came into this game behind the eight ball, having only 1 point from the first two games, needing to win this game by 4 goals or more, and also needing Wolmer's to beat Heidel, which I don't think any of those two things would have been realistic. So you reap what you sow, as they said, and Stats performed well all throughout this round. But for the past couple of seasons, there's been this toothlessness about them in front of goal, and it was on full display again in this year's Manning Cup second round, and it costed them a chance to progress in the competition. Um, as I said, Kingston College, in the beginning part of the game, they were attempting to use their wide players. They're attempting to get the ball over to the man they call Messi to make things happen, but it was just dealt with so easily by the Stats back three. So they didn't pose much of any threat. And when Stats got a foothold in the game, we really saw system, we really saw attractive football. They're two top midfielders in the middle of the park just playing it around, getting the ball over to their wingers, getting the ball back inside, getting good squares, making good set pieces. Stats really put on a beautiful display of football. I can say I enjoyed watching Stats play. I enjoyed how they play today. But the standout part of this Stats team, and I think that's been the case for the last couple of seasons, is their defense. As I said, they're somewhat of a hybrid back three that I'd have to talk more to Philip Williams to understand exactly the theory of it, but it worked seamlessly today. And it's easy for any defensive system to work when you have the likes of Alex Xavier Gooden and J. Lloyd Smith in that back line. And those two men, boys, whatever you want to call them, were the best on the park today. Stats is two standout central defenders. Gooden scored the goal. J. Lloyd Smith got the assist. But in every other aspect, they were just outstanding. They made great passes. They were on point with all their tackles. They were very composed, and they made this football game very easy. And they made this Kingston College team that possesses a lot of talent look somewhat talentless today. And I'd have to give my hats off to the Stats centre backs, but in particular to J. Lloyd Smith. Man, he's in contention to be one of the best central defenders that I've seen in this Manning Cup so far. He's so composed, he's so technically gifted, and as I'm saying, to have a centre back to come and kick your delicate set piece and to whip it in picture perfect and to find the head of another centre back. That's just something special to behold, and that's why we awarded our man of the match to J. Lloyd Smith. Kingston College, as I said, they were very flat throughout the game, and they do have a lot to build off of based on their performances, dropping, I think, 6 against Heidel, but also they do have a lot to improve upon. and that was on full display in today's game, people. So that's my analysis. If you write the game, tell me what you thought of the game. Tell me how you thought both teams played. And if you weren't at the game, tell me what you thought about my analysis, people. As I said, be sure to watch Rush's analysis of Mona versus Georges because that was a big match. A lot of goals were scored in that match, and Mona continued to show their dominance. So we go and go take that team. But before we leave, go watch the analysis and the interviews from these two games that This or That Sports TV was at. Like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and share the video to 10 people and get us 6 subscribers. Because if we can do that, how much subscribers will get us by the end of the day. Anyways, people, tomorrow, 2 more matches again. Catching and JC, Eltham and Tivoli. Big matches, big stakes. Stay tuned for those analysis, stay tuned for those interviews, and stay tuned for more This or That Sports TV content, lives, Manning Cup reviews, this, that, and the third, people. So much in store. But, man, I have nothing else for you today. So without further ado, I'm going to go. This was This or That Sports TV, people. I'm gone.